Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel again today for another video on GT Sport. We're back with the FIA Nations race at Suzuka in Group 4. So this was another race where we struggled in qualifying again. Now in the third and final race of the day for Nations, we managed to put not a brilliant qualifying, but a qualifying lap that actually put me a little bit further up the grid. You can see our Baptist starting in P1. Very close through the grid, but we did have potential to be around this P2 free area in terms of qualifying. I just wasn't able to hook it up when it came to the low fuel run. Again letting me down in qualifying. We need to get that sorted. I'm sure it will pick up through the season, and we'll eventually get back to the way we was, because we was getting some good results in qualifying not so long ago. So in P6 there, not a brilliant result, but like I say, top split. So this is kind of like the last split of the day. It tends to be kind of a mixture between split 1 and split 2. So you get some drivers that would normally be split 2 drivers mixing in with split 1 drivers. So the points I think were around low 2.9k. It wasn't like a 3k lobby or anything like that. So very much a mixture kind of split. But starting from P6, we've got the opportunity to try and make progress in the race. Now this video is all going to be concentrated about the battle at the front. However, we're going to be doing a separate video about someone else in this race, and we'll give you a clue. Towards the back of the grid there may be a certain person that we all know very well, and yes, he lived up to his name. So we will be concentrating on that in a separate video and analysing some of the driving that went on in this race. As at the back of the grid, to say it was messy was a bit of an understatement, as you might see a certain famous character appearing very soon. Let's just see who's starting at the back of the grid. Who will it be? Who are your predictions? Oh yes, it is Momos, the legendary Momos himself there, starting at the back of the grid. And there was some rather questionable moves and actions took part in this race, but I wasn't aware of it until after somebody came into the stream chat and told me. So we took a look and it was quite bad, but we will concentrate on that in a separate video. For this video, we're going to concentrate 100% on the race that we've got in front of us, starting P6 in the Lexus. Obviously this was pretty much a single make race if you wanted a really strong chance, although I did actually point out in the stream that the Mustang could be an alternative, and you've got the Mustang starting in P4 there, so the Mustang was an option. Maybe we could have gone with that, because I do like the Mustang around this track. We have tried it in the past and it drives really well at Suzuka. It's quite surprising how good that car is. It's got such a strong front end for such a big car. It does actually surprise you. But starting from P6 now, first thing we need to do is get into that slipstream. You can see we're behind Matthew at the moment. We've kind of got a bit of a gap to P7 because of the way the rolling start works, and this is another reason why I really hope we get them new rolling starts brought into Gran Turismo that we saw at the World Tour event, where it was pretty much 2x2, or give us manual rolling starts, because it'd be so much more entertaining, and I think it would really put a bit of pressure on people at the start. But this way at the moment kind of leaves a bit of a gap between everyone, and with this race being a very short 7 laps, it was really frustrating that you couldn't really leave any sort of gap like that, with the slipstream involved and stuff like that. Let's hope they improve these races soon in the future and go a little bit longer, because 7 laps in my view was far too short. And we had the recent another race where it was only 13 minutes long as well in the manufacturer. It's all getting a little bit short in my personal opinion for racing in FIA. I think based on the Twitter poll that we did recently, the majority of people want either between 25 minutes and 30-minute races, or 30-minute plus races. Personally, for myself, I think for the majority of people, for everyone, about a 25-minute race for basic FIA races would be pretty much ideal, maybe going up to 30 minutes sometimes. And then for top split 24 races, maybe they could make them, where it's just the top 24 drivers in the world, bring back them top 24 driver races and make a 40-minute, 45-minute endurance race, or something a little bit more long, a little bit more consistency based, to test these top drivers. So that's an idea for Polyphony. Let's see if they listen. Chances pretty limited, but we might as well put it out there. But in this race, you can see very much a train developing. You've got TRL driver in the lead that's going to probably pull away. He seems to have a bit of a pace advantage over Matty there in P2. He's already got a nice little gap there, but we've got now a train developing, because P2 is so close to P3, 3, 4, and then 5 to myself, and we've got a gap behind us. So we've managed to break the slipstream to P7, so that's good. We don't have to worry about going defensive. But in this type of situation we're in now, you find it really hard to actually get into an overtaking position, because we can't gain that much on P5, because we've got his slipstream, but then he's got the car in front of him slipstream, and the same applies all the way up to P2. And at the moment, Matty is still getting a slight little draft from the TRL driver, but that is going to be gone very shortly. But that is one of the situations that you come across in these type of races, where slipstream is the only real overtaking opportunity was going into 130R or at the first corner. But for the people behind Matty, Pirates is probably going to have the best opportunity at making a pass on this track from P3 once Matty's lost that slipstream from TRL driver in P1. So it's a tough situation. We're starting to fall back a bit here now, but not trying to take too much life out of the tyres early on. We wanted to try and keep the tyre life alive right to the very end, and I do find it quite difficult at the first sector at Suzuka. When you've got the dirty air, you have to be a little bit more smoother, a little bit earlier, you know, a little bit less throttle inputs and take it a little bit less aggressive. And that's one thing I do need to improve on, is driving in the slipstream with the dirty air and taking it a little bit more easy. So we're not right up behind the car in front, because I do tend to prefer to be a little bit further back and try and save them tyres a little bit during this early phase. But we've got enough speed to hold off P7 at the moment, so that's all that matters. And also I found that into the braking, into the very final chicane, I seem to be able to brake quite late. Now some people were saying I was braking too early in the stream. However, from what happened in the race, it looks, if you watch the braking zones into this chicane, I seem to gain quite a bit of time. So I think I was braking pretty well and quite late at this chicane. You'll see again now, braking quite late and getting very close to P3. Almost getting a little bit too close there, but I was able to gain every time on that chicane and get myself right back into that slipstream. So it kind of seemed like I was braking at the correct point there and able to gain a little bit of an advantage, and actually pull a bit of an advantage away from the driver behind me in P7. So in P6 at the moment in this race, this isn't ideal for myself. Obviously we need I think it's like 2.4 or 2.5 Ks to points to improve any sort of round that we've already got on the leaderboard. So sitting in P6 here around, I think 2k points, it's not really of any use for me. So we just got to try and hang in there and see if anyone makes any mistakes in this race. You know, close racing like this, just look how close it is between P2 and myself in P6. There's only about 1.5 seconds separating these 5 cars involved in this battle. So one mistake from any of them could wipe out few, or, you know, we could end up gaining ourselves into P3 or even P2 if, you know, battling happens and it causes people to slow down, make mistakes. So we've got to stay in there, try not to make any stupid mistakes ourselves, and stay in this battle for as long as possible. And you can see now that TRL driver in the lead has actually started to pull away, but he's obviously broke that slipstream. He's made the break and he's able to push on now. So it looks like Matty is actually, he's not got that slipstream to help him out now, and he's actually causing a little bit of a train behind him. But for him, he's got to go defensive into the corners because he's got no slipstream. So in the hardest situation really for Matty, because he's got no slipstream to help him out down the straight. So he's the only one that's really vulnerable in terms of the braking zones for moves coming in, because everyone else is picking up a slipstream, so they know it's going to be really hard for another car to make a move anywhere. And also TRL Adam in P4, I don't think he's got a straight line speed to match the RCF, because the RCF still, even with its slight little nerf, is still faster down the straight lines than pretty much the majority of cars. I think the only car that's a bit faster possibly is like some of the front wheel drive cars and the Jaguar, which is an absolute monster down the straights. Probably one of the fastest cars once you hit the final gears, so fast down the straights. But other than that, the RCF is pretty much one of the best, and it's also one of the best handling cars, and that is why the majority of people have picked the RCF for this round of the Nations. As we now cross the line, about to start lap 4, you can see fairly consistent at the moment, not trying to push too aggressively. We're just trying to stay in that slipstream and hang in there, and if a mistake's made, because it's such a hard track to overtake on in general, Suzuka, especially in Group 4 where they're a little bit easier to drive, they've got quite good traction, you find it a little bit harder to make a move. As you see there, Matty running a little bit wide there, making a mistake, and that is the kind of mistake we've been waiting for. Now Pirates is going to have a look around the outside, but he cannot make that move stick round the outside there. It would have been too dangerous. You could see that he backed out of that and decided to tuck back into the slipstream, because he had TRL Adam right behind him there, waiting to make a move at any opportunity. So this is extremely close racing. This again shows you why people are racing on GT Sport, because look how close it is. And another reason why I wish we would have longer races, because I could have, you know, to race like this for another, like, you know, 14 laps, and what could have been, what I think would have worked, would have been a race like this where you can pit stop, but the tyre wear is not too bad, so you could actually pit a few laps early and get an undercut if you wanted, but then you'll be suffering at the end and try and get past some of this battling. Little strategies like that you can do on games like iRacing and stuff like that, where you can pit 3 laps early or 2 laps early and still have the tyres to get to the end, or you can just pit in the middle and then you'll have better tyres at the end, and then you can attack the other drivers at the end. I think we need some strategy back into these races. I like the lower tyre wear. I like the fact that we're not fuel saving in every single race, although there are some fuel saving races. I do enjoy that, and it feels like you're racing again and everyone's pushing, but we just need a longer race in my opinion. 7 laps is just far too short. I think 14 laps of this track would have been perfect, to be honest. Make the race about 25 to 30 minutes long, and it would have added some strategy in, and it would have been really entertaining as we now go into that 130R corner. Little lift off the throttle now that we're in the slipstream, because the car does have a tendency to run wide. We take that nice and easy, and again in the braking zone, just look how much we gain. A little bit later than the others on the brakes and able to get right onto the bumper of Matu, and everyone is so close to each other at this point. But then you have that effect again now where everyone's drafting each other and no one can really make a move except obviously Pirate in P3, who's got the slipstream, and Matty278 has not. Is he going to go for a move on this lap? I don't think he's going to try it on this lap. No, he's not going to go for that move. He was a little bit too far back. You can see he's having a look. He's all over the rear of Matty, so putting Matty under a lot of pressure. Matty's doing quite well to keep that position at the moment, obviously with no slipstream to help him defend that position to P3. But I'm trying to put pressure on Matu as well. You can see that understeer kicking in when we got really close to the rear of Matu. The understeer kicked in and we lose a bit of time on this first sector. So maybe pushing a little bit too aggressive to try and get as close as possible and losing a bit of time. And again there, we're suffering with that understeer, which loses us the entry speed into that fast left-hand corner. We can't get on the throttle as early and we drop back again. But we're still in that slipstream range and we've got a nice comfortable gap now to P7. You can see we've got a solid gap there. We don't really need to worry about P7 at the moment. We can just concentrate on the race in front, and you can see there Pirate getting right out aggressively to the right hand side. He's going to try and go around the long way of the hairpin, but again, such a hard move to make. Is he then going to try and undercut and get on the power nice and early and draft him up the straight? This is really close racing, and again, really hard to overtake, but it's great that the racing is this close, and so far it's been 100% clean. No mistakes made by anyone, which is great to see. And it's just a case of, at the moment for me, trying to be a little bit cautious. When that happened, I didn't want to be too close to anyone's, any car in front. I wanted to just sit back. I think in the live stream I might have said something's going to go off in this at the moment. It's getting very close, and it might be a good idea just to make sure we're within the slipstream, but just to give us time to react if anything goes off. You can gain a few places like that, but we're going to pick up the slipstream down the straight again into 130R, attacking this corner, little lift off the throttle again, chuck it over the curb. Be careful on that curb there, you can lose the rear. We actually did that really well on the brakes as late as possible again, and look at that, again on the brakes really late and catching up again during the braking zone, and on the throttle nice and early there, so we're right in the slipstream again. But again, we can't do any sort of gains on the cars in front because everyone's just in a line and everyone's just gaining that speed down the straight. But is Matty going to be under pressure now? It looks like Pirate has got his car on the left hand side and he's going to try and chuck it around the outside of turn 1. That is an incredible move if he makes that work, and unbelievably Pirate manages to make that move work around the outside of turn 1. That's probably one of the best moves I've seen on this game in a long time. Great move by Pirate. To put a car around the outside there is really difficult because you have to be so brave on the brakes, very late on the brakes, and just hold it as close to that curb on the left hand side as possible. We all know about that curb. It will send you off within an instant, but a very brave and very good move by Pirate to do that. And now Pirate, I think, had a bit more speed and is going to be able to push on. It looks like Matty's suffering a little bit with them tyres. You can see everyone wants to get past Matty now, and now it's going to get very chaotic. I think it's now the Ford's turn to put some pressure on Matty in P3 and try and take that final podium position in this race. We've only got a few laps to go. You can see now that the cars behind are starting to gain a little bit of time on us now, where the battling's starting to gain. Just look how close we was there to Matthew through the hairpin, and late on the brakes again. I did find during the braking zones I was able to brake a little bit later and get very close. I was trying to get as close as possible, but when you brake that late and you're that close, you've got to be very hesitant on the throttle, so you don't quite get on the throttle as early as some of the cars in front. And now we go through the long spoon corner and try and make sure we don't go off there, keeping a very tight line to the apex, just coasting kind of in the RCF, and then on the throttle, early upshift into 4th gear through there, and then powering down the straight. And just look at how amazing this game looks again. it looks stunning. I do love watching the replays back, especially this camera angle, as we see how close the racing is there. 5 cars going through on one camera angle just shows you how intense this race actually was. 100% concentration needed, and we're going to do our best again into braking. We had to brake a little bit early because we could see that Matthew was having a little look at TRL Adam as he was having a look on Matty. So it's all going off now. We're going into the final lap, and we're just trying to see if where we can line it up. I felt like the opportunity was into that final chicane, as I was able to brake quite a bit later than some of these other drivers into that corner or the hairpin. So we're going to try and get as close as we can to Matthew now, but do a nice solid final lap. I've looked after the tyres quite well. We were running free rear bias to mainly help out the front tyres a bit, and we've kept them fairly well balanced. If you look at that, that's what you want. You want your fronts to be as worn as the rears, really, and that creates a really nicely balanced car. And that's what the aim was with the free to the rear bias, and it's worked really well at the moment, and we've done an okay job on the tyres. Just trying to take it nice and easy through here again, lifting off the throttle there, and just so we can bite it into apex to get that wider entry into this left-hander, so we can get on that power that nice and early onto the throttle and pick up the slipstream, because there's an overtaking opportunity into the hairpin. Will we be able to go for it this lap? It's going to be extremely difficult with everyone so close at the moment. You can see that Pirate there has managed to pretty much break the slipstream to Matty, and that's going to put Matty under pressure on the end of straight and into the braking zones for the overtaking zones. As we now go into the heavy braking zone, we're going to go late on the brakes, and getting very close to Matthew again. Look how close this is. Everyone is bumper to bumper here. This is incredible driving that I do love being involved with on GT Sport. But now this is where it's all going to tend to get a little bit hot in races, because everyone wants to make that move on the final lap. It tends to get that little bit more aggressive as we go through the spoon corner, trying to get a really solid entry into it and then get a solid exit as well, so we can build some speed up down the straight. You can see TRL Adam is all over the rear of Matty 278 there. He's going to try and go for a move into the 130R maybe. I don't know if that Mustang will have the pull to beat the RCF in a straight race down the straight, as Matty's gone defensive though on the left. That's going to compromise his entry into the 130R, but he manages to get it in there. We go into the corner really aggressive. I had to lift off and go to the right hand side. Now we've got dirt on our tyres. I see a gap down the left, but then Matthew covers that, and we hit Matthew, and that was 100% my fault. But we're going to analyse that in a minute just to show you why it happened, because although it was my fault because we had dirty tyres, I saw a gap, tried to brake in it. We got a penalty, so we just go over the line. Matthew ends up overtaking us anyway because he's only 1.3 seconds behind. So Matthew still finishes in P5, but we lose a position. So a justified 3-second penalty. I think that's fair. There's no way that Matthew should have got any penalty. But I'm just going to show you something. With what happened, I was trying to look down the left, and if we see it in full speed now, it's still clear here now. We run off wide. We get on the deck, we go all the way over to the left because there's a nice gap there, but Matthew covers it off, and I have to instantly turn to the right to avoid him, and then that just causes the rear to go. We try and save it, and we didn't want to obviously go through that corner sliding and hit any of the other drivers. So look at this point now, we're in the braking zone now, coming up to the 100 ball, and there's a nice gap there for me to go to. Matthew's covering the inside, so I thought he's going to stay over that right hand side, and still at this point we can see a nice gap there, and it gives me an opportunity to run off down the left if we can't stop the car. And also there's more of a braking distance by going down that left-hand side. But then Matthew now decides to turn over and go back onto the racing line. And this is where I knew I'm a bit screwed here now. So we instantly put the steering angle all the way to the right. And you can see I'm really aggressively turning to the right because we're going to wipe him out if not. And we go all the way to the right, and the rear is not living with that kind of steering inputs. We lose the rear. And now we've got to save the rear by, you can see that gap has gone down that left-hand side as well. So if we would have stayed down there, we would have been off the grass into the barrier. So we're now trying to control the car. And one thing we didn't want to do at this point is we had to save the rear, because at this point, we didn't want to wipe out the top two cars there. Because if we would have gone straight through that chicane and the car didn't go, we could have wiped out two other drivers. So we saved the car, but then we can't stop it in time. And we do hit Matthew. So it was my fault. We did run wide out of that corner, but I did want to go down that left-hand side. Matthew covered it, maybe thinking I was going to go for the overtake, but we were going down that left-hand side purely because we needed that extra braking distance with the dirt on the tyres. And unfortunately, it ended like that. We lose a position, but at the end of the day, Matthew didn't lose any positions. He stayed in P5, and the point situation didn't really mean anything anyway, because we only came away with, we would have came away with 2,000 points. We came away with 1,900 points in that race, and we needed 2.5. So Nothing really gained, nothing really lost. It was my fault, but it was a bit disappointing to end that race like that. But it was a good fun race, really close racing, and it was nothing deliberate in it. So I hope you enjoyed that video. We are going to revisit this race from the back of the grid to show you what went on with certain other drivers, and do that in a separate video. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll see you all very soon. Thanks again for watching, everyone.